but these spurious attacks on ICE by our political leaders must stop.
Joining me now is former Trump campaign surrogate Gina Loudon and Turning Point USA founder and executive director Charlie Kirk. Thank you both for coming in. Gina, the extraordinary thing about what Pence said and what we just saw is that the media is now blaming him for using the ICE issue for political gain when in fact it was the Democrats that first suggested that ICE should be disbanded.
Look, they are reaching, and they are so far down to the bottom of the barrel at this point that their hand has gone through it. It's so sad. If you think about it, really, if the Democrats get their way on what they really want to happen at the border, it'll be that anyone who wants to come illegally can grab a kid on their way over, kidnap them as their free pass to get into America and then be set free because they're a quote-unquote parent. No American is falling for this, and the Democrats are falling for their own lies at this point.
And Charlie, it just amazes me that now the media, sometimes you wonder who's following whom, whether it's the media following the Democrats or the Democrats following the mainstream media. But the media is now blaming Pence for using ICE as a political issue when clearly it was the Democrats that began the whole thing.
Without a doubt. Not to mention, on July 4th, you had a protester, that's a nice word for it, an individual go up the Statue of Liberty, the huge abolish ICE flag.
Right.
You know, I do think there's a government agency that should be abolished that starts with an I with 3 letters, but it's called the IRS, not ICE. It's funny that the Democrats want to take away the government agency that takes away terrorists, not our taxes. All kidding aside, this is a direct attack from the Democrat Party on the rule of law. They do not want borders, they do not want standards, and they are pinpointing a segment of the population, particularly illegal aliens, that have infiltrated America to try to turn them into future Democrat voters. And they know that if they can destabilize the foundation of our country, which is our borders, our language, and our culture, via the abolition of ICE, they will have an unlimited segment of Democrat voters for the future. And I applaud the vice president and our president for standing with the rule of law. Not to mention, ICE is the tip of the spear in fighting child sex trafficking.
Right. No,
child
absolutely.
Sex trafficking,
they
which
do
is horrible.
extraordinary work, and not to mention the number of ICE agents who've been killed in the line of duty, most of whom, by the way, are Hispanic, as we've mentioned on this show before. And yet, the insults against ICE, Gina, continue. We had Senator Durbin say on a talk show a couple of days ago, look at ICE. And this is, I'm quoting him directly, what a bunch of incompetence, he said. At this point, they're focused more on toddlers than terrorists. These are people who put their life on the line every day, and many of them do get killed in the line of duty.
Yeah, exactly. Just this week, while he was sitting in his creature comfort, I'm sure, cushy office or whatever, writing these ridiculous comments, ICE agents were out there trying to arrest, I believe, a couple of illegals who had kidnapped and raped some little girls. And there were protests because the ICE agents were there trying to do their job. This is the kind of thing that they are advocating at this point, at least by not saying for people not to do things like this. And the really scary part of all of this, David, is what it will ultimately mean. Like you said, it will ultimately mean either the deaths of more agents, the deaths of children, or more human trafficking that is already the problem that ICE was setting out to tackle. Well, so their rhetoric is not working, and it's hurting people, and it's dangerous. They need to stop.
Charlie, there's another thing it might lead to, which is the Democrats losing all the gains that they were hoping for in November. I think I have never seen such an obvious self-inflicted wound committed by a political party in my life that I can remember.
Yeah, and you look at the Democrat Party right now, it's almost like the Bolsheviks versus the Mensheviks. Back in the Russian Revolution, they can't figure out how far to the left they want to go. And you kind of saw this in the recent primary in New York, where the full embrace of Democrat socialism, and right with that, tangentially, is no more immigration standards, the deterioration of borders. And this will bode very, very well for the president's agenda, where he wants to build the wall and strengthen our southern border. And the Republican Party needs to double down on the idea that we do believe in national sovereignty and that we are not going to be a one world, one continent government. And I think that has to be the message going to November. You couldn't ask for a better tee-up when the Democrat Party now outwardly says abolish ICE, which is going after child sex traffickers. It's not going to bode very well for middle America.
Go ahead,
to Charlie's
Judy.
point, if I can just add that since the Democrats started on this bandwagon with immigration and the so-called separating families mantra, the president's points with Hispanics, his popularity with Hispanics has raised 10 points.
It's because the Hispanics, more than any other group of people, I'm married to a Hispanic, more than any other group of people, they know what's at stake here. And they have seen countless examples of kids being sent across the border by themselves. Some of the girls, this has been mentioned before, are given special abortion pills because they know that the young woman or the girl is going to be raped by the coyotes taking them across the border. I mean, it's a terrible situation. It has been highlighted by Donald Trump and ICE agents in very clear fashion, but the Democrats have responded in the worst possible way, I think, for their own political fortunes as well. We got to leave it at that, guys. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, guys.
Gina Loudon, Charlie Kirk, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks a lot.